Andrew, welcome to Port Adelaide. Welcome to the football today. Just quickly, there is a meeting with the football club in the morning, is that correct?
Yes, the AFL Commission will all be here. We've got a commission meeting in the morning, and prior to that we'll meet with the Port Adelaide Football Club. We're meeting with the SANFL at their SMA offices to see how the Adelaide Oval project's going, and then we're meeting with the Adelaide Football Club Board. All
right. I want to ask you about the Sunday Mail today. Back page, and then you turn inside. There was a big double-page spread on how bad things are looking forward for the Port Adelaide Football Club, and you were quoted in that article. I want to ask you, just straight out, let's get to the point. Will the Port Adelaide Football Club always exist in the AFL?
Yes, it will, and I hope so, because we need two teams in South Australia, and I can't imagine there's going to be another club other than Port Adelaide. The Adelaide Crows obviously being the first club, and there have been two great football clubs and won premierships, both of them, which is a remarkable effort given we've got clubs like the Western Bulldogs who are still waiting since 1954. But as I said to the club, as Brez already mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that it's time to start looking forward and stop all the acrimony and criticism and going over the past and talk about how we can grow this football club and rebuild it to be a powerhouse again. It's only a few years ago that this club won a premiership. So, no, as Brett's already said, it's got great support from the SANFL. I know that John Olsen and Lee Wicker and the board have worked tirelessly, as have certain people within our organisation. We are all on the same page. I think it's a credit that both John and Lee have got all the SANFL clubs to support the package that was put together. And everyone in South Australian football's on the same page, save for a few critics.
But what about this suggestion? A lot of people say behind the scenes that, once the new television rights deal is ended, Port Adelaide will be in strife. How do you answer that?
Well, look, I only got the article emailed to me this morning, and I don't know the journalist who wrote it. His name was Peter Felstead or something. Jasper, whatever.
Yeah.
First of all,
I've got his number.
Jasper. He never rang me for a comment, and I think it's probably incumbent upon all journalists. If you're going to write an article like that, you should actually go to the source and just verify if something's true. So, first thing I want to say, and I hope there's media in the room, I've never used the words and never used the quote that's quoted in that article that said, "Don't come back because you won't get another lick." It's just absurd, it's wrong, and he should retract that in tomorrow's paper because it's just complete and utter crap.
You even talk like a Port Adelaide person.
No, I was going to say something else then. And secondly, this nonsense about if we haven't got 18 teams, there's stories going around, they just put another team as long as there's 9 games. Well, that's crap too. I mean, we actually have said ad nauseum with the support of the SANFL and the support of the Crows, we want 2 teams in South Australia. It's very important for the economic model, for the passion of this state, to have a game every weekend in South Australia. To do that, you've got to have 2 teams. One's Adelaide and one's Port Adelaide. There's no new team coming in. There's no games being bought out of Melbourne to be played here. And it's no good for the Adelaide Crows if they're playing once and then they play in another 2 weeks. So please, can people stop speculating and commenting about things they don't know anything about, particularly you, Jasper, whatever your name is.
I get a feeling he's going to be more famous over the next 24 hours.
Well, him and Leaping Larry in Melbourne. He's my other favourite.
Yeah, right.
He never shows his face.
All right. Who is Leaping Larry?
He's useless.
Right, okay. Bloody hell. Can we get Andrew a wine or something? I feel he's about to open up. Bloody hell. We're just getting warm. I was told, this is more of a statement than a question, I guess, but I'd like you to comment on it. I was told recently, or over the last couple of days, that what the Collingwood Football Club did when perhaps it was on its knees in the days when Andy Maguire first came there, is that they identified the fact that they had hundreds of thousands of supporters, and they set about just trying to turn them into members or into people that would actually go to the footy rather than just say, I barrack for Collingwood. And I guess we might be in a similar position here right now, that for all of the people around Australia that say, I'm a Port Adelaide person, do we just need to actually get them along and get them to the footy? That would make an enormous difference, wouldn't it?
Well, that's just one component of a very complex exercise. I mean, to rebuild the Port Adelaide Football Club is going to take a long time, and it's a multi-faceted attack, and you need to put lots of components together, and But it's been done before. I can tell you that the Port Adelaide Football Club's probably in better shape than the Melbourne Football Club was in 3 years ago, when they had to get Jim Steins or Jim volunteered to get involved and wipe out $5 million of debt, put together a superb board, and then set about putting this club back on the path to rebuilding. And they're still not there, but they're a significantly better football club than where they were, 3 or 4 years ago. Same with the Western Bulldogs. It's not too long ago that David was coming along, David Smorgan, as another president who volunteers his time like Brett, to say, look, we've got no money, we're not going anywhere, we don't think we can get to 20,000 members. And, a few years later, they've got a $30 million training and admin facility. They've got in excess of 30,000 plus members, played in, preliminary finals, etc., etc. And they've, they own the western suburbs of Melbourne. It can be done. And, what I would say, and I've often quoted this story, I remember when the late Dick Pratt took over at Carlton and he summons me into a meeting, and he had his couple of his lieutenants there and a couple of other people, and he wanted my advice about what Carlton needed. And one of his lieutenants said something about, what sorts of things do we need? And a couple of people said, you need to do A, B, C, D, E. And one of these guys piped up and said, well, we haven't got the money to do that. And Dick, in his inimitable fashion, I'll leave out the expletives, said, don't worry about the effing money. That'll take care of itself. Let's concentrate on rebuilding this football club. And it's probably a similar message for the Port Adelaide Football Club, because the SANFL and the AFL, together with the 9 SANFL clubs and the Adelaide Crows, have put together a financial package that supports this football club. So that's in place for the next 3 years. Don't worry about that part. Concentrate on rebuilding this football club.
But again, I guess you might have already answered this, but you say it's in place for the next 3 years. But as Port Adelaide people, we need to know what happens after that 3-year period, though. Well, what if we haven't turned it around?
Let's not get too excited. I don't even know what's going to happen next week in my home. I mean, let's concentrate. I mean, the Port Adelaide Football's got a good story to tell. It's going to have a new CEO shortly. It's got some new board members. It's going to Adelaide Oval in 3 years. It wants to rebuild its football department. It knows, like Brett said, it's got to go out and get some more players. It's got to have better on-field performance. But step by step, brick by brick. Let's not talk about what's going to happen in 4 years. I mean, even if you're listening, Jasper, just wait. Give the guys a chance. I mean, gosh, at the end of 3 years, what's going to happen and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this club's got to build slowly, and it won't be easy, and it'll be painful at times, and it's not all going to be smooth sailing. But, as you said in your intro, and I congratulate you on what you said, football club supporters are very passionate, and they've got to be with football clubs through the thick and the thin, the good times and the bad times. And this football club can't get any lower than it's at. But it's now time to start talking it up and looking forward and rebuilding together. And people wanting to take pot shots from the grandstand, get on board and support this football club.
Very well said. The TV cameras are here, so Jasper is going to go national tonight on every news service.
And Larry.
What excites you about the move to Adelaide Oval?
Well, what excites me about the move to Adelaide Oval is that I said to Lee Wicker in one of our early meetings when I was trying to work out whether it was actually possible to actually get football and cricket in the same room, that I wouldn't set foot into Adelaide. I'd never been to Adelaide Oval. And I wouldn't set foot in Adelaide Oval until an agreement was reached. So I was probably the only person, every time there was all these meetings, people were saying Adelaide Oval was one of the most beautiful grounds, and it's like, I'd actually never set foot into it. So I knew where it was, but I honoured my word. I said to Lee, when the agreement would be reached, that I'd go to Adelaide Oval, and I went for the announcement. And what I'm really excited about is actually going to the first game in 2014, and that's a Friday night game, Port Adelaide versus Adelaide Crows. That'll be the Port Adelaide Football Club, Jasper. They'll be playing that game, and looking forward to going along to that game.
Andrew, thank you for your honesty. Thank you so much for being with us here today. A big hand, please, for the AFL CEO. Andrew, well done. Thank you.